This is the Char-Griller 980 gravity fed smoker. There are many like it, but this one is mine. As you can see by the ice, I cook year round on this thing. In fact, how I can always tell how cold it is this device right here. When that thing is completely frozen over, I know it's cold. I've been cooking on it for almost a year now, and to control it, because I had some bad luck with the controller initially, I'm using the ThermoWorks Signals, which I love, and Dual Billows fans. I shouldn't need two fans. The ThermoWorks fans have the highest CFM on the market, but there's only one flaw, otherwise it would be perfect, and that is pulse mode. I'll show you what pulse mode does. So this is what happens when the billow starts pulsing. About 40 degrees below the set temp, it automatically goes into a pulse mode. You can see the smoke come flying out and then relax, then come flying out and then relax. It's pretty slick. The idea is not to overshoot the temperature. Pulse mode. Pulse mode is a good thing, especially for high efficiency cookers like Kamados or eggs or smaller smokers. It's great, but when it starts to pulse, it sometimes doesn't create enough air to maintain the temperatures that I'm trying to maintain. And as you can tell by the ice, I cook in this thing year round. So if there was a switch in the app to turn off pulse mode so I could just run straight air, I would not be making this video, but there isn't. So I am. So the next plan is Fireboard 2 Drive for a couple of reasons. One, it doesn't have pulse mode. Two, I can use it to drive the stock fan. And three, it has pre-programmable temperature changes that I would use during a long overnight cook, so I don't have to get up and mess with it. I'll put links in the videos that I've previously done with the single billows fan and the dual billows fan, in case you want to check those out. Would I do that again? Yeah, it worked well, except for the pulse mode. So here's the challenge with the Char-Griller. It's been close to 2 hours, and the signals on the right is reading 217. You can see it in the bottom right corner, 217.9. The Fireboard's reading 218.8, so they're less than a degree apart. And that's about the furthest they've been apart this whole time. The Char-Griller is reading 229. So we're actually below our cook temp, and the Char-Griller thinks that we're warmer than we are. I'm going to try to test the meat probes. So you can see I have a meat probe in port 2 in each of them. They're just sitting outside right now. The 56.2 on the top left Fireboard, 57.8 on the Signals. And you can see it changes a lot because, again, the Signal seems to react a lot faster. And the meat probe is 59 degrees. So, I mean, that's, I don't know what that means. Probably nothing because they're not ambient probes. So how do we test them? Well, we put them in an ice bath. So here's the interesting thing. We take them and shove them in the ice water, stir it up, and we just get them all real close together. And you can see that already the Signals is measuring 33.3. The Fireboard is still dropping but trying to catch up. So it reacts beautifully but just slower. So that's a win for the Signals. And the Char-Griller probe shut off. And if I hit the button, it doesn't know that it's there. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the Char-Griller doesn't like temperatures below 32 degrees or even 32 degrees. So let's pull them back out. And I just stuck them in the grate. Let's see how they react. There, the meat probe just came back on for the Char-Griller, and the Signals is measuring 41.7, 46. Again, these aren't ambient probes, so I'm not thinking that's much of a test, other than the Char-Griller probe is slowly catching up to the other two. They're just stuck together with a hunk of wire, a twist tie. So I'm not sad about that, but I am sad that we're at 218 in the Char-Griller, and the Char-Griller is still measuring 230, 229. This is the setup for the signals. Basically, there's a 3-plug adapter. 2 plugs go to the Billows fan. 1 plug goes to power. It plugs in here. Works great. Earlier in the video, you can see where I showed a picture of the back of the Char-Griller, and you can see how it was laid out and it plugged in. This is the Fireboard setup. Basically, I just bought this 5.5 millimeter barrel plug. That's a 2-wire plug. This is the connector from the 980. I just swapped it out with a Molex adapter so they would all match. This is the 3 wires that go to the 980, and I just unplug it, and if I want the 980 electronics, I can just plug these 2 together, or if I want to run it with the Fireboard, I just disconnect that, plug the Fireboard into the controller. Just don't use that center wire because the yellow wire doesn't do anything from the Fireboard, and it's slick. I would disconnect it and show you how simple it is, but right now I'm cooking ribs and don't want to mess them up. But this is what allows you to use the 980 electronics as a backup. Should this fail, I can just disconnect that, plug it in, plug the power adapter into the Char-Griller controller, turn it on, off we go. I wanted to see the probe, if the probes were interchangeable between the signals and the Fireboard. So right here is the signals probe plugged into channel 6. They're both in the ice bath, and by golly, they are interchangeable. And what's interesting is there's still half-degree separation, so which is roughly where they were before, 1 degree, half a degree. So now, and you can see that it's measuring the temp inside within a degree of each other because the Fireboard is running the Char-Griller now. So I switched it up again and put the Fireboard probe in port 1 and the signals probe in port 2, and you can see they're still within a degree of each other. So if you're interested, this is the used one on the left is the signals probe. The Fireboard probe is about 2 inches shorter, I would say, but when the cables are stretched along each other, there's the end of the signals probe, and about 2 feet longer is the end of the Fireboard probe. So there's a good 2 feet difference in length. The Fireboard is longer. Took about 7 minutes. There's about 5 degrees difference, 6 degrees difference between the signals and the Fireboard right now, but that's because it just ramped up and hit temp. So it's overshooting a little bit. It'll be interesting to see just how much it overshoots. But the fan speed is currently at 0. So I'm pretty happy with that. 100 degrees in 5-6 minutes. Yep. It overshot by 16 degrees according to the signals, 13 degrees according to the Fireboard, and I'm okay with that. It's stabilizing now and it's actually starting to come back down. It's a breezy day today, so that is definitely having impact. One thing that I found with the 980 that really helps is close your fan door in between when you open the lid. If you're going to open the lid, close the fan door. It'll help prevent overshooting temperatures. And then just take a little piece of wire and hook it on the fan door. Then use the pressure of the latch. I'm doing this one-handed. Use the pressure of the latch to kind of hold the fan door most of the way closed. And that will prevent any kind of breeze from blowing in. It'll prevent overshoot and allow the fan to control the temperature instead of the draft to control the temperature. This is what the Fireboard app looks like. The spike lines across the bottom are the fan speed. The red, at least I think it's red because I'm colorblind, line coming up, you can see the meat temperature come up, the flat line. The thin blue line is the set temperature, and then you can see the temperature of the grill. The sharp drop spikes are each time I open the lid to spread or check the meat or wrap, and you can see that it's absolutely rock solid. This is what the Signals app looks like. You can see that the colors are a lot more contrasting. You got The blue is the meat, the green is the temperature. I think it's green, the temperature of the smoker. The red flat line is the set temp. This is, by the way, if you look at the time chart across the bottom, this is over an 11-hour cook, and so I would say that's pretty solid. It looks kind of squiggly because, like I mentioned, the signals reacts much faster to temperature changes, and so that's really, all that squiggly is about a 2 or 3 degree variation, so it's nothing. You can see I kicked the temp up about 5 o'clock in the morning. The sharp drops are when I pulled the brisket off and wrapped it and then put it back on. So, who won? Well, let's look step by step. First, setup, fireboards with the stock fan, definitely. It's a single cable. You use the 980 controller if you want to, or with a simple plug-in, you're using the stock fan and moving a lot of air, and it's just simpler. The visual appeal, I gave that to the ThermoWorks. I like the way it looks. It's just cooler looking. Connectivity, I gave it a tie. Both of them are rock solid on the internet. The app itself, I'd have to give that to the Signals as well. It's just easier to use. It's a little more user-friendly. It's easier to navigate around. There's a lot more in-depth programming on the Fireboard, and so that's more complex, and it's absolutely doable. It is what it is. For startup, it was a dead tie. With the Dual Billows fans, it's very strong. You light that thing and you're up to cook temps with either system in no time. Maintaining temps, I gave that to the Fireboard because with the stock fan and not having pulse mode, it recovers from open lids faster, it gets back up to temp faster, and when you increase the temp, it gets there a little quicker. The use from the base unit, I gave it to the Signals. It's more user-friendly. It's easier to program and make changes if you don't want to take your phone outside or don't take it out of your pocket, or like me, you forget it and you're standing at your barbecue. So just the ThermoWorks the Signals is a little bit easier to use if you don't want to use the app. For color vision, definitely the ThermoWorks. I'm colorblind, and it's a lot easier for me to read the graphs and differentiate the colors, just for what it's worth. App options, I gave it to the Fireboard. No pulse mode, obviously. One thing it'll do is allow you to pre-program temp changes. I would use that, for example, cooking a brisket overnight. I would set it to, at 10 o'clock, I'll put it on, set it to 190, let it just bathe in smoke for a couple hours, and then at midnight, I'd have it kick up to 225 and sit there and cook until I woke up. And that also is a huge thing for me. I use that feature. Cook tracking, I gave that to the Fireboard. The Signals cooks or tracks your last, I think it's 10 cooks. The Fireboard tracks all of them. You can add notes and pictures and things like that. It's got a lot more options for cook tracking. So the bottom line is the Fireboard for the win, but not by a lot. The setup on the Char-Griller itself is really easy to do. It's a single wire, single fan. I can still keep the electronics or the Char-Griller electronics for backup if I need it. Also, the ability to pre-program temperature changes in your cook, that's a big deal to me. So Fireboard for the win. But if it's a Kamado or an egg or some kind of high efficiency cooker, it would literally be a draw. You'd have to decide which features you want and then get the pretty one. So good luck to you in your choice. Thanks for watching.